Good evening to everyone. Let me point out that quick points, and we'll come back to this to explain. One is a lot of the things that have been used as a terminology, green economy, green jobs, blue economy. We need a better understanding of this, because if you go to the communities and if you look at what the plans for blue economy is, we have done this exercise. It's actually excluding a lot of coastal communities. It is dispossessing them from their rights over fishing of the waters of the coastal lands. So I'm not going into detail. What I'm saying is just accepting blindly a blue economy is a green thing, is a good thing. A green something means a good thing for environment is not looking at it critically. That's one thing. Second point, that major point that I want to highlight before going into details is that a budget is not just allocation. The budget also has a role through incentives and disincentives to promote good things and to discourage bad things. If you look at like transportation, some of you have talked about electric vehicles, promoting electric buses and all. There are 2 points, important points to understand here. If you look at the budget allocations, the high roads and highways, road transport and highways got 2.78 lakh crores. And it's substantially being increased every year. And if you know the science, road transport is the most polluting form of transport after air transport. So there is no disincentive for reducing air transport. In fact, last several years, this has been encouraged. And air transportation, short-haul flights, are 6 to 8 times as polluting as train transport, railway transport. So one good thing is this year, at least the railways have got a increased budget. So that's a good thing. But as simultaneously, road transport has got a big increase, and road transport, expressways, highways, it's mostly used by cars with small occupations. And these are as polluting as flights, short-haul flights. So if you look at Delhi or any big city in India, or not even big city, even tier 2 cities, the amount of air pollution, that's another thing. This National Clean Air Program I'd also like to mention. The amount of air pollution has not come down over the years, in spite of all the halla-wulla, all the focus. And one major reason is the explosive growth of both, private cars, and within private vehicles, private cars, not only two-wheeler, private cars, four-wheelers, the growth of private diesel vehicles. And there is, in spite of this being pointed out to the government earlier, there is absolutely no word on incentivizing private diesel vehicle. Again, a diesel vehicle emits 6 to 8 times as many particulates as an roughly equal capacity petrol vehicle even. Forget about CNG and electric. So these are major issues where we are given a sort of facade, something green, but the major contributor to the pollution are not at all addressed. If you look at what India, and I'd like to connect it also, if you see what Indian government has done in the COPs, where the climate COPs are being talked about. India has refused to sign the methane pledge in Glasgow. India has refused to sign the stopping deforestation pledge with the logic that it refers to India's international trade in forest products. So there are very funny actions being taken where we are being fed simultaneously that we are going green. One good aspect that is there, that is most panelists have already mentioned, is that 1 crore solar home solar installation. But what Sarath pointed out is very valid, because DISCOMs have actually conflict of interest. Why should I reduce my possibility of getting revenue by letting the individuals who are my customers to generate their own electricity and sell it to me? So unless there is a simultaneous measure to take it out of the DISCOM's domain and do it through somewhat which has a far better interface with the users and consumers, this scheme again will not succeed. Like, the Kusum scheme existed for several years. Kusum has a big target of having solar installation, solar pumps, solar installation, solar power stations, mini solar power stations by farmers in their own lands. And that has not, success rate is very low, less than 50% in the 2 of the schemes out of the 3, Kusum A, B, and C. So this is the problem that is there. The other thing that I will also like to point out, that many of the, when we are talking about electrification, electric buses, solar PV, wind energy. These have got some incentives, some increased allocation. What we don't realize is only 16 to 17% of India's primary energy is consumed in the electricity form. The rest 84% or 83% is consumed in terms of coal, oil, and gas. So we are not talking about that. Our continuous emphasis is increased coal, increased oil, increased gas. Gas means natural gas. The budget, I'll not go into details, but you can understand. The primary sources of pollution, not only for greenhouse gases, but also particulates, which are extremely harmful for health. There are estimates which show that something like 1.9 million people, the premature deaths happen in India because of air pollution. What happened to the National Clean Air Program? What is the allocation? The entire, you have said, some panelists have said, Environment Ministry's budget has been increased. Actually, it has been decreased. If you look at the real term, inflation adjusted, last year average inflation is how much? Around 5.5%, 5.6%. So 3,231 to 63 is actually a significant decrease of the budget. What happened to the budget for National Clean Air Program? It's extremely pathetic situation because the 131 or so non-attainment cities, they are not getting enough, forget about enough money, any significant money. The 99 cities who have the continuous ambient air quality monitoring stations, even their things are not improving because they are not getting resources. What happened to the climate action plans? The center asked all the states for developing their state action plans on climate change, CECCSD, and it was done. Not only the first version, the second versions of the revised version of the state climate action plans have already come. But what the states are pointing out, that you have told us all these 8 to 11 to 12 sectors where we made the plans. Where is the budget? The center says, no, we are not going to give the money. So where is the money going to come from? You can say that we have done this plan, done that plan, but there is no budgetary allocation for that. There is no support for that. So that's a big stumbling block of achieving any kind of climate resilience, adaptation and climate resilience building of communities. So I think like there is a allocation for coal gasification, 8,500 or something crore. Coal gasification don't take out the pollution. You are still burning the part of the coal. You are converting into gas. Part of the coal pollution will come into the leakage into the groundwater. Part will come back in the atmosphere. So instead of directly burning the coal, you are just taking it via media, which will, at the point of burning, you are reducing the pollution. But overall pollution, actually, you are not reducing by much. So all these are hidden inside the green language, the green, blue language. So the blue economy, what does it mean? And what are the kind of things that the government has accepted? It's enclosures, excluding traditional uses, the conservationist lobby approach. So that we cannot just talk about environment in exclusion of people in our country, in exclusion of communities which have lived there for centuries and millennia and actually conserve those environments. So we are seeing continuously a push for large-scale enclaving, enclosures, where the pristine, quote-unquote, pristine environment will be preserved. Rest of the coastline, if we are talking about environmental issues, entire coastline is being planned for ports and power plants. Does a port, and go to Vijinjam, go to any other big port, go to Mundra, you see the impact. It's not only along the ports, it's 50 kilometers this side, 50 kilometers that side of the port, and 5 to 8 kilometers, even the plumes go into 5 to. There are a large number of coastal power plants being planned, including nuclear that Charles talked about. Jaitapur is again being pushed, a lot of other this. So I think with 2-3 good intentions, good proposals, like as I said, I support this 1 crore private house being solarized, but this needs to be done in a fashion which gets implemented. There is a mechanism to do that. Otherwise, after 2-3 years, we'll again come to the Kushum kind of thing, or India's commitment or pledge, not commitment, pledge in the NDC that by before NDC also the Prime Minister announced, but at Glasgow he also announced that we'll do with this 4 lakh to 30,000 megawatt of renewable. Now it has been increased to 5 lakh. So 50% of installed capacity will be renewable. But we have not achieved the part of the rooftop part. we have achieved only 1/5 or so of the domestic part, that is the rooftop. Not even the utility scale part we have achieved in full. And till now, I'll finish with this, we are only roughly at 30 some percentage of the 2030 target. It might be achieved, but again, just solarizing and converting to wind, that's the renewable part in the electricity, will not address the environmental concerns, will not address even the pollution concerns, because the environmental concerns are larger than the pollution concerns. But even to address the more narrow pollution concerns, you need to address the entire primary energy basket, not 16 to 17% of the basket and forget about the rest. Because if you continue to import and burn petroleum in that rate, what are you going to do with the this PM 2.5 and even PM1 particles, which should be also one of the concerns. So I think with a few exceptions, we have not seen much change in this budget. It's still largely greenwashing, blue and greenwashing now, and largely again targeted to large scale, big infrastructure, whereas the millions, the crores of community members who are dependent and who could have been co-opted in this work, like I really appreciated the Kusum scheme if it was implemented well. That could have changed the way the India's at least electricity sector would have developed. So this has not gone in that direction. Again, there is an exception, a couple of exceptions that I really appreciate, but largely it is again that large-scale infrastructure, big things, where the inherent or embedded pollution is hidden from public. Because you will not consider that once you, like electric vehicles over a long term are lower emitting, even with, say, 60%, even if your electricity grid is supplied 60% by coal, electric vehicles, cars, will be lower emission life cycle basis over a longer term. But what we don't normally question is all these are front loaded. So right away, your pollution is much higher than even an internal combustion engine. So those are not at all taken into account. I think once we question, and again, last point, budgetary, to repeat it, budget is not just allocation. The allocations to key sections of the economy, which could have made the environment better, is low. But beyond that, the incentives and disincentive part is really, really disappointing. Thank you.